and welcome to this week's episode of the $1 Billion Movie Club. I am your host, as always, Christian Simpson, and with me, my co-host,
Pawan Mehta.
Juan. How are you today?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing
okay?
okay. It was a good de-stressor day.
Oh, that's always nice to have.
Yeah.
My de-stressor days are always, hey, I'm gonna do something, and then it's 4 p.m. and I'm like, frick, I didn't do anything. I guess I'm gonna do nothing for the rest of the day.
That sounds like a lot of stress, not gonna lie.
There is a lot of stress, and then I'm like, well, I procrastinated enough. Let's just give it up for tomorrow.
That is true. It is always nice to be like, you know what, this thing that I wanted to do and I had to do, it doesn't matter. Just let it go.
I didn't actually have to do it today. It'll just make it even more stressful tomorrow.
It's fine. Just let it all build up and then just work on it all at once in a big pile and then just crush it.
Just make it rain and then crush it?
Yes. Exactly. Just see, now you're getting it.
Oh, I see. So that's what I should do with my stress.
Yes.
Well, you know, it wasn't stressful.
Well,
this week's film, James Cameron's 2009 sci-fi epic, Avatar.
We're not talking about The Last Airbender. No.
I'm sorry, what?
Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's not that.
Okay. That's what I thought you were saying, but I wanted to make sure there's no craziness, no wackiness in your description of the Avatar franchise.
That's me being wacky.
Wow.
For those who are only listening, I just put my hands to the side and waved them around a little bit.
Very much like Mr. Mime from the Pokemon franchise.
Yep.
Juan, what is Avatar about?
So we get our military everyman, Jake Sully, right? We see him in the space pod.
Mm-hmm.
He's going off to the Navi planet. No, not now. What's the name?
Pandora?
Pandora. There we go. Yep. And he's getting to know the peoples, and getting to know the peoples, he decides to switch sides because the peoples he came with are trying to destroy the land for a element known as unobtainium, which is something. What?
We'll get to that in a second.
Which is something that is very valuable to the people on Earth, but in doing so, they have to destroy the land of these blue people. But Jake Sully's not about it. That's the movie. Boom.
And that was James Cameron's Avatar. Released globally over the weekend of December 16th through 18th, 2009. Released in the US on December 18th, 2009. Distributed by 20th Century Fox with a budget of $237 million. The film opened in domestically with $75 million in its first weekend. It would go on to be number one for 7 straight weeks. The first film since 1999's The Sixth Sense to lead for 5 consecutive weeks. First since Titanic to lead for 6 and 7 consecutive weeks.
Those are numbers on the board.
From Deadline.com, Nikki Fink, who, as I realize, may or may not be with the publication now, but Nikki, thank you for this. January 2nd, 2010, Cameron's $1 billion baby. Avatar passes $1 billion worldwide and 352 domestic after only 17 days in release. Official numbers show Avatar's projected North American cume. I had to no glasses again. Cume after only 17 days in release from 20th Century Fox will be $352.1 million. And with an international cume of $670.2 million, its worldwide box office figure should be $1.02 billion coming out of this weekend. Previously, the title for fastest to $1 billion was held by, any guesses, Pawan?
Let's see. I'm gonna guess Return of the King.
No, previously held by Pirates of the Caribbean's Dead Man's Chest, which did in 63 days. 17 days, 63 days. That's a big jump.
Yeah, it's a lot fewer days.
And then once more from Nikki at Deadline, January 31st, 2010. Number one, Avatar rides past $2 billion worldwide and reigns for seventh straight weekend. Now that 20th Century Fox's Avatar is the highest grossing movie of all time, not adjusted for inflation or higher 3D ticket prices. It passes the $2 billion mark in worldwide grosses and remained number one at the weekend box office for the seventh straight week. Today, after just 45 days of release, James Cameron's sci-fi epic reached $2.039 billion. Note, Pirates took 63 days to make $1 billion. Avatar crossed $2 billion in just 45 days. One major thing I want to point out with Avatar, because as Pawn sneezes, bless you.
Thank you.
You know who else was blessed? James Cameron's Avatar. When you look at the receipts from China, this is a market that we've yet to really tackle on this show, but I think it's important to point out $237 million of its gross came from China. That's about 10% of its entire gross.
Well, I assume this is the point where China actually starts to show that sort of wave of cash flow.
Yeah, but I also just want to point out for comparison, Titanic made $43 million in China, Return of the King, $10 million, Dark Knight and Dead Man's Chest, neither of them were released in China. Its original release would end with $749 million domestic, $1.994 billion international, with a worldwide total of $2.744 billion. At the time, it was the highest grossing domestic and worldwide hit, currently sits at number 3 domestic and number 2 worldwide. One last thing I want to throw in. Later that year in 2010, there was a release of Avatar, the Special Edition. Do you remember this, Pawan?
I do not.
I vaguely remembered it, but I did not know about the details. According to Wikipedia, which has many other sources, obviously, but I'm not sure. You can click on the references, etc.
No one
Avatar.
clicks on the references.
I do. I'm insulted by that.
I'm
but
surprised
Avatar,
that that's the thing that gets you.
Avatar Special Edition includes an additional 9 minutes of footage, all of which is CG, including an extension of the sex scene and various other scenes that were cut from the original theatrical film. The extended re-release resulted in the film's runtime approaching the current IMAX platter maximum of 170 minutes, thereby leaving less time for the end credits. Cameron stated that the 9 minutes of added scenes cost more than $1 million a minute to produce and finish.
Damn.
Pawan, what is your history with James Cameron's Avatar?
So the weekend this came out, my parents went to go see it, and I decided to see Sherlock Holmes with my brother instead.
Oh.
Just to show you what a relation I have to these huge movies. A lot of them, when they come out, I see these smaller movies instead.
Sherlock Holmes was a big movie at the time. Not to the same extent, but like that was a box office hit. It's not like oh, my parents are seeing Avatar. I'm gonna watch Precious based on the novel Push by Sapphire.
I feel like every time someone brings up the movie Precious based on the book by
the novel Push by Sapphire,
you have to say that second half.
Why would you not?
You can't just say the movie Precious.
That's one of my first memories of the Oscars. Was that year when both Avatar and Precious were nominated? I'm just like, why does this movie have
Precious?
Yeah, it was nominated for Best Picture.
No, don't you mean Precious based on
you're right.
the book, based on the novel Push by Sapphire?
But yeah, one of my first memories of the Oscars was watching that and being like, why does this movie have such a long title? I have no clue what the movie's about, but it has a lengthy title. So you watched Sherlock Holmes instead of Avatar?
Yeah.
Is that your only history with this film? I forget. Have you seen it before?
I did end up seeing it like in the 4th or 5th week. I did eventually get around to it,
Did you see it in 3D?
I think so. It's hard to
Interesting.
remember at this point.
Interesting.
How about you?
So I before this week never seen Avatar in full. As the week went on, I had memories come back.
Oh,
Pawan, join me in this ride.
okay. Here we go. I'm
Remember,
strapping in.
remember how I think I mentioned this on the podcast. In middle school, we had a teacher show us Apocalypto, Last Samurai, Kingdom
Yes.
Heaven. Well, that was sixth grade social studies. In sixth grade of mathematics, I had a teacher who, and I don't remember why, but sometimes I guess the lesson would end early and he'd just hand us worksheets. And while we worked on it, he just put on movies.
Well,
But
that's
here's
nice.
here's the weird thing. The only ones I remember him ever putting on, and maybe we're the only ones he put on, were Avatar and then Blue Harvest, the Family Guy parody of Star Wars. And here's the thing.
What school did you go to?
Jersey City Public Schools, thank you. Here's the thing with Avatar. I remember random sequences. I remember the first scene where Jake is first put in the Navi body. I remember Sigourney Weaver dying and then try to put her in the tree. I remember the very end. So I don't know if we slowly watched the movie throughout the week, which I don't think we did, or that because class would rotate, he just had the movie on like all day, and then we just jump into different parts, and it's just like, okay, he's at hour 2, but we'll jump in from here.
I mean, honestly, that's my favorite way to experience new media.
Just snippets every randomly.
No, just like jump in at like halfway through the thing and then be like, you know what, this is good enough. Maybe I will go back and watch it.
Well, I did not. I did not.
Well,
Yeah,
now you did.
so I never watched it in theaters, never watched it since, and it always boggled my mind that this was the highest grossing film of all time. Uh,
Was.
I'm gonna be honest, still boggles my mind, but we'll get back to that.
Really?
We'll get back to that.
Interesting.
We briefly covered some of this with Titanic, James Cameron's
Mhm.
previous film, also highest grossing film at the time. What is your history with James Cameron, Sam Worthington, Stephen Lang, Sigourney Weaver, any of the other actors?
I saw Alien. That's about it.
I feel like we went through this. That's not the James Cameron Alien movie.
No, I'm talking about Sigourney Weaver.
Okay.
Boom, I got you. Bet you didn't see that coming.
I have an arrow in me. I have to now pull it out. Go on.
That's my history with most of the people in this. Other than having seen this film in theaters.
For me, previously mentioned, I've seen Titanic now. We've both seen Titanic at least. I've seen both the first two Aliens. Incredible pieces of cinema. The first Terminator I've seen for old Jimmy Cameron. Sam Worthington, I don't know if I've seen anything. Wait, can we go back?
Two?
My other memory of this film.
Okay, let's go.
Probably around the same time, yes.
Mm-hmm.
We were on a field trip. Do I remember where? No.
You went to Pandora.
No, I wish. We had like a fancy bus for this field trip for some reason.
Was it blue?
Possibly on the outside. But they had like DVD players and screens in this bus. This is the only time we had this bus. We had maybe 6 field trips throughout middle school, and this is the only time we had it. And for some reason, my mind wants to say it was a Kevin James movie we were watching. But I remember that there was a trailer for Avatar. And I don't remember if this was before the movie came out or after the movie came out. Because I remember seeing the trailer and being like, this looks weird.
Was the movie the greatest Kevin James movie ever made, Paul Blart Mall Cop?
I don't know if I've ever seen that movie, so I don't think it was. Maybe it was the Zookeeper one. I don't know. Back to my history with this film.
Okay.
So that's my history with old Jimmy C, Sigourney, my only history would be the Alien films, and then a film we'll discuss later on in this podcast, so I won't spoil it.
Which
I
one?
know you're confused, and that's why I don't want to spoil it because it's one of the best random things we'll see.
Let me guess. She's a voice actor in a movie.
But you're not remembering what she does.
All right, let's move on.
Michelle Rodriguez. I've never
Oh
seen.
yeah, I've seen her in the Fast and Furious movies.
That's what I thought. I'm
Yeah.
excited to go through those movies for the first time for this podcast.
That's gonna be fun.
Giovanni Ribisi is the quintessential that guy actor. For me, he'll always be Frank Jr. from Friends.
Sure.
And Zoe Saldana, possibly the highest grossing actress of all time because of this Guardians and Avengers.
Oh yeah.
Another
Well,
actress we'll see.
I just most of the actors slipped my mind.
And we'll get to that when we get to the discussion. But that's my history with these people. I enjoy their work, but I'm never really blown away, except for Titanic. I guess Titanic would be my favorite James Cameron movie. Maybe Aliens. So yeah. One.
Quick thing before we get into that.
Yes.
I just wanted to bring up my one experience of watching a movie on a bus.
Ooh, I like bus movies.
It was when I was doing like a summer acting program.
All right.
And we were going to see a play that was like way off in who knows where.
Okay.
And on the bus ride there, we were watching Shakespeare in Love, and I was so bored.
So weird. I guess if it's a bunch of acting summer school people, maybe.
But like,
It's
what's
such
so
a
weird about that is that like, I since then I've read Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which is written by the same person who did the script for Shakespeare in Love.
Tom Stoppard, right?
Yeah, but like, I just could not get into that movie.
Huh. I never tried. Hold up. Can I do this? Do I do this?
You have the script for
Can
Rosencrantz and
you go back?
Guildenstern?
Can you go back and say it again, and then we'll pretend like it's naturally going to pop out.
You got the script for Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead?
What? What? Oh, this little thing? Oh, this little thing I've never read? This little thing I bought and was like, I'll read it, and then it's on my shelf.
It's a fun one. That's one that was in my uncle's huge library that he's like, you know what, here's the bunch of plays that I got. Sounds, and then I picked that one out.
Wait, sounds, and then you picked it out.
Yeah.
It made sounds. And you're like, oh, which one is it this one? Is it this one? And then you grab Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead.
I mean, it is pretty absurd as a play, so I wouldn't put it past it. Now, going back to Avatar.
Yes. The topic of this week's episode. Pawan, what are your general thoughts on this film?
Blue people good.
So you're saying Blue Lives Matter?
No.
What a shift from last week's Dark Knight conversation. Pawan Mehta believes. Am I wrong in saying that's what you just said?
Listen, don't take me out of context. I like the Pandora people. And I'm not talking jewelry.
Oh, are you talking about the streaming service, the music streaming service?
Oh yeah, that is a thing. No, I'm talking about the blue peoples on this planet.
The
They're
Navi.
good.
The Navi.
Yeah, they're good. This movie gets a lot of flack for being a Pocahontas ripoff or like a Dances with Wolves ripoff.
Do you have an issue with that?
I don't see much of a connection beyond the fact that it's a story about colonialism.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
Well, all right. Well, first off, I never have a problem with stuff being reminiscent of other text, other plays, other films, just because.
Yeah, but the thing is, in terms of how people were talking about it in regards to this movie, it was always with a negative connotation.
Yes. Well, how much of that is the yearly January thing of, hey, this is a giant Oscar player. Now we're gonna throw all the bad press at it. 1917 doesn't have a script. People were saying that 1917 is a brilliant piece of cinema, and I enjoyed the writing of that film.
I have yet to see it.
But I think that's why a lot of the it's Pocahontas thing was
But it
taken.
wasn't just the Oscar people saying that. A lot
No,
of the people
but-
who went to see this movie were like, "Oh, there's no like story or there's no big plot. It's just what they show on screen," which isn't
I
really
don't-
true.
I don't disagree. I don't agree with that. Yeah, oh, you go on. You go on.
I mean, there's definitely things happening in this movie. You can't
Yes.
just say it's like CGI and like, oh, you just look at the spectacle. There are actual like plot developments. You care about the characters at certain points.
Interesting.
I take it you very much have an opposite opinion in terms
So,
of that.
so on the Pocahontas thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I actually found it was very minute because the third leg of this was not very well developed. But I found it to be almost similar to the Jack Rose Cal love triangle of Titanic. Just in that just in that, she was betrothed to another man, and this one man who were like, "You're not part of us. Okay, stay away." And yet they get together at the end. But I do see the Pocahontas similarities. The difference being this is Pocahontas told from the lens of the white man.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the only way you could have told this story.
Yes. No, it makes sense. It just feels weird.
Because like without that lens, through that lens, they're able to highlight how wondrous this entire planet is.
Yes.
Because if it was told from the Navi's perspective, it would all just be mundane.
Oh yeah. Well, you need him as the audience surrogate.
Exactly.
To introduce all this cool stuff. I thought I had while watching this movie. Is it saying that you could be transracial? Or is it saying appropriation's okay? Or is it not meaning to and just kind of accidentally does it?
I think the better, like the closer connection might be in terms of like how Native American tribes, you can't claim to be a part of it. They have to claim you as one of their own.
Okay. But they try to dismiss him, and then he's like, "No, I am one of you people."
But he goes through the work.
Yeah. It felt weird. I will say at the top.
Okay, you know what?
The top.
You want to talk about the
Wait. Can I just say at the top my general thoughts, right?
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed myself with this movie. This film I have more notes for than any of the other films because I felt like I never fully connected with it. I felt there was a lot of, oh, this is cool. Oh, I'm choking. I was like, oh, this is cool. Oh, I'm enjoying this. But I never felt like I fully locked myself into the experience. And I don't know if it's just the way I felt 2 hours ago when I finished this movie, the fact that I never saw it in theaters in 3D. Maybe it just I wasn't. I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting to love the movie going in. But I enjoyed it. I respect it. I understand how important it is to have a movie like this in 2009. I don't think there was a film to this grand of a scope to push technology in this way, but it was not my cup of tea. As a whole, I still enjoyed it. I took that tea, sipped it, went, but still finished it. I was like, okay, you did your job.
Well, that means you did your job as well, that you were able to finish a movie before jumping on this podcast and talking about it. Congratulations.
I think The Dark Knight's the only movie I didn't watch the day of, and that's because we moved the time of recording while I was watching it.
So you're the one who brought up the whole transracial aspect of it. The question I have.
That's half serious, half joking. I don't know how That's just a
Now,
bias.
off of that, a question I have.
Okay.
They brought up these avatars,
Mhm.
like the surrogates of them, as like Navi DNA merged with human DNA.
Yeah.
How does that happen? What I'm asking
No, no, no.
is
Yeah.
which human had sex with a Navi and how?
But was it just like you take the egg and sperm, you put it together, and you throw it in like a tube? That's what I assumed. On that same regard, in that same regard, it bothers me that every animal seems to connect with the Navi's hair. And so,
Yes.
what did the planet create? What was the deity's name? I forget. Do you remember?
Awa.
Awa. So did Awa create these animals and the Navi to be symbiotic? Or did a Navi get a little and thought, let's do it with these pterodactyl creatures?
The answer is yes.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Because, listen, you don't have to be both theology
Oh.
and what's the word? Evolution
Uh-huh.
are both explanations for how we got to the same end.
Oh.
And those are the 2 points that you just posited. So in a sense, yeah, it's just like the humans, but blue.
I'm be honest. I feel like most of this episode won't be analysis, but rather questioning the semantics of this universe.
I mean, the thing is, that's what this movie was for, though. It's more building up the universe. If we want to get
Yes.
into like this characters and like the deep lore of this, we're gonna have to wait for Avatar 2 through 5,
Yes.
which I am extremely excited for and can't wait for.
Ooh, let me just preface. This movie ends. I'm like, oh yeah, this obviously is set up for more. Let's get more. I'm down for some more. So going back to us having many questions about how this happens,
Mhm.
I found the opening to move at such a brisk pace.
Yeah, it felt like they were trying to get as many explanations out of the way as possible,
But
as quickly as possible.
it never got too jargony.
No, but the thing that did take me out of it for a second is just the fact that they bring up his like brother and he's like, he's dead, he's gone. Don't worry about him.
Two questions. One, how did the brother die? I'm still confused.
They don't explain.
That was like the third line in the movie was like, yeah, your brother, like, someone killed him? I was like, wait, what? My other question about the brother. This movie didn't need the brother, right? What is the point of the brother?
The brother is the explanation why this military dude got involved in this heavily science field.
Okay, let me try my explanation, right?
Okay.
Hey, Sully. That's his name, right? Sully. I was gonna say him Scully, but that's not right. That's
Jake.
X-Files, right?
Jake
Jake.
Sully.
Hey, Jake. You want to be part of this expedition? Cool. All right, we'll connect you with a Navi. Okay. Now you're gonna go into cryogenic freeze. Okay. Press button.
But Basinson.
Oh no! Your legs broke in cryogenic freeze. Are you sure you want to keep going? Yeah, I want to keep going.
But Masinson, you're forgetting the fact that the avatars were created specifically for these people. And he just happens to be the exact same person as his brother. And that's why he's able to pilot it.
Again. No damn reason.
Well, I mean, from a thematic standpoint, I kind of see why they would have the idea that like the specific avatar can only connect to one person. But like that also makes me think that his brother had sex with a Navi, and like that's what created that avatar.
Again. No one's denying that. I'm sure if do movies have how in plays though like backstage you'll have like a book with all the research and stuff. Do movies have books? They have books, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe so.
I think I saw a video about Spike Lee talking about that for Death Five Bloods. Anyway, so I'm sure in the book there's an entire section about how the creation of these Navi avatars and the sex, because he did extend the sex scenes in the special edition of this film. I've seen 4 James Cameron movies.
Mhm.
3 of them involve sex scenes. Twice have the sex scenes been very out of nowhere and awkwardly put into this movie.
What was the other one?
Terminator.
The first one?
Yes. Did you know the first Terminator had a sex scene?
I mean, I don't really think about the first Terminator movie.
I did not know. I found out while watching it with my 13-year-old cousin.
Bet.
It's like, well, you're going to learn about this now.
So let's talk about the animals for a sec.
Oh, I thought the design of all these creatures were magnificent and wonderful.
Yeah, it was a little plasticky in terms of
Yeah.
the CGI.
Is that a product of it being 11 years old?
Oh, it's definitely because it's like introducing this new technology and like having things feel more it takes a lot more work to make something feel dirty
Yeah.
in a natural way.
Before we continue, I just want to shout out the art direction team who won the Oscar: Rick Carter,
Mhm.
Robert Stromberg, the art direction, set direction by Kim Sinclair. They won that award. And then the visual effects team led by Joe Letteri, Stephen Rosenbaum, Richard Bainham, and Andrew R. Jones. Well done. Well done, all you
Shout
people.
out to those people because damn, this is a huge undertaking in
Yeah.
terms of making it come to life.
Oh, yeah. Even though I wasn't the biggest fan of the movie, I totally understand all the accolades. Like, it is quite the film to watch. I found that it looked a little more plasticky, and it felt like a beta version of a video game when they were like when it
Yes.
like pulled out and there were a bunch of people and creatures on screen. But when it was a close up, holy crap. It felt so much more tangible and you saw all the details. And then again, shout out to the cinematographer, which I don't know how cinematography works for a mocap film filled with CGI, but Mauro Fiore, who also won the Oscar that year.
Speaking of cinematography, though, one aspect that I thought was like a nice touch is how when they're shooting like the uh, human military going about like going places,
Mhm.
everything is in shaky cam, and whenever it's focusing on the humans, it's more unstable. Whereas with the Navi, it's all calmer and more
I didn't put
serene.
I didn't put the shaky cam together, but yeah, you're right. I thought it was interesting. We saw this a lot more in the beginning, especially when you're first getting in like the base camp and stuff. I liked when Cameron would switch the first person view. I especially when you first step onto Pandora off the ship. I will say, whenever the humans were on Pandora in their suits, that never looked good.
Are you talking about the mech suits or the just
Both,
them in their suits with like the
both,
mask?
both, especially their face behind the mask. That felt full on 2013 PS3 launch game, PS4 launch game. Dang it. I was proud of myself for getting the year right, but I messed up the system. But yeah,
I mean, th- this game wasn't on PS4 though; it was on PS3.
the game was Avatar the game, unless it's called Avatar the movie the game. Do you know
I
if it's?
think it's that one.
Please tell me it's called Avatar the movie. Is it James Cameron's Avatar the movie the game?
Okay, it's not. It's not King Kong levels.
Who knows? Okay, both of them
I'm
best
looking it up
directors.
right now.
For those who are unaware, uh, as the era
So-
went, there was video game tie-ins for many hit
oh
films.
my
This
god!
had one. I remember it being reviewed on G4's X Play, and I believe it got like 1 star out of 5. What did you discover, Pawan?
It is James Cameron's Avatar. The
Yes,
game.
yes.
Wait, no, it's just James Cameron's Avatar the game.
Still, that's too many. There needs to be a hyphen or a comma somewhere.
Yeah, there's. I mean, there's like a colon. Avatar the game.
I see. I see. I did like a going back to the movie with the more human stuff. You had this like kind of a bluish grayish tint to those scenes, which I found very reminiscent to the first Terminator when they would go flash forward to the future and it's apocalyptic kind of sad land. There's those tinges of gray and dark blues that help set the tone, you know.
Yeah, it also gave an impression of what Earth was like, because they talk about it in terms of like it being more industrialized and decaying in terms of the greenery on the Earth not being there anymore. But you can't really get a sense of that from just the speed, from
No.
just dialogue, but the way the base and everything was managed in
Yes.
terms of the heavy just industrialism and like all the huge plows and everything, it really gives you a sense of what it must be like on Earth.
I have a question about that. Because I think it's Sigourney Weaver's character who at the end is like, hey, there's no trees on Earth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was that mentioned before that? Or is it like a big reveal near the end?
I don't think it's a reveal, but it is something that isn't that wasn't brought up before.
Yeah. It felt like it was supposed to be a reveal, but maybe it's just how I perceived it.
I mean, I felt like it was more just an expansion on the idea of how these people are going about it.
Sure, sure.
Because it's like we've done all we can with our space, so now we got to go to someone else's and ruin theirs.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned earlier that some people seem to think it's just spectacle and there's no underlying message behind this, but I think the strongest message is the green uh
Oh
themes, I
yeah,
guess.
it's a very ecological film.
Yes, ecologically friendly and thought of. No, to my knowledge, no actual animals from the planet of Pandora were harmed in this making of this film. I don't
The
know. I didn't.
actual animals on Pandora.
Well, I didn't finish the credits, so maybe they didn't add that at the end of the credits. But to my knowledge, no creatures from the planet of Pandora were harmed in the making of this film. And it felt like a clapback, if you will, at can you do that one more time? But behind you, so it's a clap back.
No, that's how Nancy Pelosi does
Oh,
it.
I see. I see. Now we're getting political. Okay, I like
Yeah.
that because it did feel like a call out toward the corporations. And I don't know if it's just me putting this lens on it. I don't know if it's James Cameron intended for it or he just happened to hire all these people. But I feel like he's calling out white guys, all the white guys in power.
See, it's a very indirect message if that's the case.
Yeah. Again, I don't know if it's just me putting a lens in it because I noticed that there's no male people of color in this. Except I believe some of the Navi were played by some maybe, but none of the humans were, right? Oh, there, Dr. Max Patel, Dilip Rao. I apologize, but for the most part, it's a bunch of white men. And
Yeah.
I feel like there's probably something about masculinity, toxic masculinity, with Stephen Lang's Colonel Miles Quaritch.
Oh yeah, definitely in terms of, him having big mechs and wanting to swing it around.
Yeah, yeah. Can I say on the topic of white guys? Because I always think it's interesting that Sam Worthington never. It didn't. It doesn't feel like he did much after Avatar, and I don't know if that's just a weird luck or what. Not.
I mean, and it depends on the contract he had with Avatar, because he could just live off of this if he had the right deal.
I do wonder if he made a lot of money as a no name, on a film that had a giant budget, but I doubt they expected to be the highest grossing film of all time. But anyways,
Yeah.
I made many notes because there were
Mhm.
times that I was watching the movie and was like, oh, he looks like this dude. So let's see, who do I have on this list? Kinda Liev Schreiber, Taron Egerton, or Alden Enrichs and Alden and Han Solo in Solo: The Star Wars Story.
Ah, okay.
There's a note, part Jason Bateman,
Part.
and then the other was looks like the love child of Tom Holland and Chris Pratt.
So white.
Yeah. There's a line that bothered me that he said that I'm looking for.
That who said?
There's a line that he said that I thought.
Like,
It's like when he first gets in the containment unit to turn
Mhm.
into the Navi. I can't find the line. I did not like the line of how does it feel to betray your own race? And I'm sure it's obvious that he meant human race, but it's
well,
interesting
that's
that
the thing. It's the double entendre in term. Well, it's not an entendre. It's not sexual, but it's a double meaning with that.
does it. Is it
Yeah, I
just the
think that is.
implications of colonialism and all
Yeah,
that stuff?
definitely.
Okay,
I'm pretty sure that is intentional.
okay, that does make more sense. I thought in the moment it was Cameron thinking race obviously means human race and not realizing that race had other implications. But no, yours makes more sense. Yours makes a lot more sense. Um, I feel like we're talking about the design of the creatures somehow.
We did
Right?
talk. We did talk about that a little bit in terms of them being very well made.
I think you had more you wanted to say than I somehow distracted us.
Um, it's it's nice to how they were able to take like these normal animals that you would see here and change them up into its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like the rhinos with like the hammerhead shark looking front.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's not much to say
No, they
because
were.
like it's hard to say things in terms of that about these designs.
Yeah, we're not the two most knowledgeable in art direction and and like
Yeah.
angles and colors, but they were these very exotic looking creatures that
And the
felt
color palette for them were amazing.
yes. Um, two questions. So the Navi can only get like one dragon person each Navi, right?
Mm-hmm.
When Sully jumps and lands on the giant dragon thing, what happens to his first dragon thing?
Oh no, the don't you remember when he was going back to the base, the other one was falling behind?
Oh, I didn't see that. I missed that.
Yeah, it was there.
Okay,
So the exception is if you get one of the big ones.
I see. I see. Was it, then that's the only big one, right? To our
Maybe,
knowledge.
yeah, I think so. Because it did have the same name as the one that damn, what's Zoe Saldana's character's name again?
I didn't remember any of their names. Zoe Saldana is Neytiri?
Neytiri, right, yes, Neytiri. She brings up how one of her like ancestors had it and it was like the same
see.
name.
I see.
So I'm pretty sure it's just one that's very long living.
While we're on the topic of the design of the characters, why do the Navi have nipples?
The better question is, why wouldn't they?
That's fair. That's fair. Because, and this is part legitimate question. One of the things that I learned through pop culture and YouTube and the internet was
Mhm.
that everyone joked about an avatar that they have sex through their hair.
Yeah, that was a very prevalent joke back then.
So did they have sex with their hair in the sex scene? Because if so, do they have genitals? If not, why do they have nipples? Is it just, and this is a
Are
genuine question.
nipples are nipples a sexual thing inherently?
I don't know. And here's my other question. Is that just to stay away from going too far from Uncanny Valley, like having some sort of resemblance so that the audience could identify with the creatures?
I think it's more like that. I don't think they were thinking in terms of like, oh, the
Oh,
nipples.
no, you're right. You're right. I don't think they were.
Yeah, because like I don't know if nipples are inherently sexual either. I don't know what's going on with you.
I was just,
Is that
all
your
right.
fetish? Is that what's going on?
No. So earlier today, I was watching Rick and Morty, right?
Okay.
And it's like episode 2 of season 4. No, episode 1 of season 4. Rick is killed, and he comes back as a backup Rick.
Mhm.
Comes from a different dimension, and so
Of
he
course,
comes
yeah.
back as like a shrimp Rick, and he's like, "This is weird." And he explained to them that he comes from like a dimension where they come from primates rather than shrimp or wasps later on in the episode. So I'm
Mhm.
like, so are the Navi descendants of primates still? Am I overthinking this? I
I
assume I'm
mean,
overthinking this.
definitely the animals there. I assume it's a similar thing because like it's a similar trajectory to like human evolution, I assume.
Yeah.
But like obviously that aspect of it isn't really explored in this movie.
Yeah, because you don't have the time to. But again, that's why I legitimately am excited for the sequels. In that I'm curious about this world and to learn more from it. And
The reason
unlike,
why I'm excited for the sequels is I genuinely don't know what they're gonna do.
yeah, you don't know. I saw a headline like yesterday that was like Kate Winslet's held her breath for 7 minutes underwater. I'm like, what the heck are you doing, James Cameron?
And you know what? I really got to applaud James Cameron. He literally was like, the technology is not there for me to like f- finish this movie for Avatar 2.
Well, to build off of that, also from Wikipedia, development of Avatar began in 1994 when Cameron wrote an 80-page treatment for the film. Filming was supposed to take place after the completion of Cameron's 1997 film Titanic for a planned release in 1999. But according to Cameron, the necessary technology was not yet available to achieve his vision of the film.
And you know what? I'm so glad that he I mean, one hand, it's great that he had the opportunity to be like, "Nah, it's not there yet. I'm going to coast and then I'm going to do it once it's ready."
Yeah.
But like on the other hand, so many people don't have that sort of
No,
freedom.
no.
But like in a sense, in terms of like the producers wondering if they're going to get their money back on this investment, James Cameron is a safe bet at that point.
Yeah, because that would have been post Aliens, Terminators,
And Titanic.
Titanic. Yeah. And as we will discuss later on in this franchise, when you make $1 billion, people will take risks whether or not they pay off. We'll discuss.
But like I heard that like this is just going off of what I remember seeing.
Mm.
Like he said Avatar 2 is 95% done, and the reason why he hasn't finished it yet is because he wants to film at the bottom of the Marianas Trench.
Jimmy, Jimmy, Jimmy.
Which you know what? Bruh, I'm so excited to see what comes out of that. Because you know it's gonna be special.
Well, going off of that, because we briefly touched on the visual effects.
Right.
At times, I found it looked dated. But then there's a part of me that thought, well, if this was 2009, pre Avengers, pre Planet of the Apes, pre all these other gigantic CGI spectacles, like this would have been one hell of a film.
Another thing I want to talk about in terms of like all the other CG heavy movies you brought up,
Hmm.
they usually have extremely drab color palettes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like it's a lot easier to do this sort of thing when you have like a lot of dust and like all that covering up whatever flaws that might be in your thing, which is why I think it was really bold, and even if it didn't work 100%, I admire the balls they had in terms of making it as colorful and as vibrant as possible.
Yeah, you're right. And again, it's not that I think it didn't work. I think with this, now that I've seen other movies that came after and were obviously influenced and built off of this, it doesn't feel as spectacular, but I totally was like, this is incredible. I loved the beginning of the end credits, where it was just shots of the landscapes. And I don't know how much was CGI, how much was not, but when it's like a floating island in the sky, it was obviously a lot of CGI.
Oh my god, I love those.
And those are the shots. Those were the main shots. Some other stuff we'll get to later, but the establishing shots of the entire landscapes, those held up
So
incredibly
beautiful.
well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, The other one I wanted to bring up, because again, all the close up a CGI. Mwah, mwah, mwah. I wanted to touch it. I could see the details in the skin, and it didn't. It was
You
out
wanted
of
to
this
put your
world.
hair in their hair.
Yes, I wanted to take my hair, first put it into horse, take it out, and then put it into their hair. Um, but specifically I was waiting for this movie to have that moment of, whoa, look at everything around you, and I didn't think it had it. But until you get to the nighttime sequences,
Right.
and you see all the lights from all the plant life and those weird little dust fairy thingies. Um, I specifically pointed out the end when he's like praying to the deity at the tree, and I just thought visually stunning.
I mean, no disagreement here. I don't know what to add in terms of that.
But like the creature that chases him initially in the beginning, right?
Oh, you're talking about with like those little
Like
cat-like creatures.
yeah, so it was the rhino thing, and then that jumps out. Like
Yeah.
that never looked good to me.
Yeah, it did look a little too plasticky. I will admit that.
Yeah, the two things that I found in common with whenever I was pulled out by the CG was when there were a lot of people on screen, and then whenever there was action. It's as if the CGI couldn't keep up with the movement, and then it looked off. But again, this is 11 years removed from this film. All the backdrops and backgrounds still looked incredible for the most part. I found the visuals held up, but yeah, it's odd when you go in thinking of it as this will be a ginormous uh pillar in the art of CG in cinema, and it's not perfect. Which that's my expectations that were.
I
It's my fault.
mean, in terms of technology, I feel like that's the easiest space to be outdone by future movies.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the easiest thing to become dated.
And again, that's why I'm excited for the next ones, because I'll finally watch an Avatar when it's the newest technological thing in the market.
Right.
And unlike other people, I wasn't waiting 12 years for a sequel. I'm just waiting one, two,
I'm pretty
maybe.
sure no one was actually, well, okay, I won't say no one, but most people weren't actively waiting for a sequel. Everyone's happy with their MCUs and all that. Not many people are actually looking like, yo, when's Avatar 2 coming? Because, okay, there's like one aspect of how people look at Avatar in retrospect that where it's like, oh, it's just, we're going back to the whole, it's just the visuals thing and all that, where people are like, you can't even name a single character in the movie, even all these years later.
I can't do that with most movies.
Which is like, yeah, but you only had like 2.5 hours with this one all the way back in 2009. Most people haven't necessarily seen it since, and you expect people to remember
Yeah.
this character when this is the only piece of media that exists in that universe that's like the big holding point.
Going off of that, is this the only wholly original movie we've seen so far in this podcast? Because Dark Knight is Batman, Lord of the Rings is Lord of the Rings, Pirates was a sequel to a movie based off a theme park.
Yeah, this is the first wholly original movie.
I guess maybe Titanic, but Titanic's based off history. Kathy Bates was a real person.
Boats were real.
Yes, but human beings and scientists, they're not real. But yeah, I didn't realize that, and I think it's gonna be quite some time till we find another original movie in this podcast.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
one
quite
I
a
have
while.
one I have in mind, but that's not until 2016, 7 years from now.
Speaking of years, it is important to note that this is like the first time one of the movies came out exactly a year after the previous one, or like the
Yes,
following year.
I was thinking of mentioning that like 2 hours ago. Well done, Pawan. Yes, this is the first time we had two consecutive years where a film was released to hit $1 billion because
And then now after this, it's going to be every year.
yeah. Well, next so if you want to be technical, this didn't hit a billion until 2010. In 2010, we have
But
two.
I'm talking
No, no,
about
no,
like,
no, no, no. Just to continue my point. 2010 had
yeah,
two releases in Alice in Wonderland and Toy Story 3. So you can argue three movies in 2010 made $1 billion. And so now we're seeing the plurality of releases. Is that the word I'm looking for?
yeah, that works.
Yes. And so now this is one of the things that I was always fascinated with looking at these movies is that it's not as rare of an event anymore. You know,
Which is interesting to make it be not as rare of an event with like one of the biggest outliers
Yeah.
in
Well,
terms of the list.
Well, we mentioned how CAG was a big, like the reliance on visual effects is a big influence from this. We can't ignore that it came out in 3D, and that Cameron intended for it to come out in 3D, and that meant more expensive tickets. And so we'll bring up,
That's true as well.
especially
Yeah.
with these next 2-3 weeks, films that weren't intended to be released in 3D were
But
very
retroactively, yeah.
yeah, very makeshift. Let's make it into 3D. And so now people are spending more money. And so not only do you have inflation, we have all these different ticket prices
But
because
the
it's
yeah,
2D,
the
3D
3D which
bump.
also seemed to die down recently.
Yes, for the most, I think because in the 11 years since, we've seen so many half-assed the 3D that yes, it has died down. But I remember, for example, when my family saw the Lego movie, we were running late, as a family does when they go
Of
to see
course,
movies.
yes.
And so our screening was so we couldn't get in. So we were like, the next screening is either in like 2-3 hours or half hour from now. The 3D screening's on. Then I guess we'll see the 3D one. And so like because 3D uh screenings are taking up screens, they will have a boost from them.
Yeah. And I mean, in terms of you brought up China, that I think there was like they had only a limited amount of screens in each theater, and like that they had to be 3D or something in terms of bringing in movies from America.
Yeah.
Like that was also an aspect of it.
And if my memory is correct, China has a limit on the number of international films they'll release each year.
Exactly. That's yeah.
And slowly that has increased. And as we'll discuss in later films, studios will start to exploit that and specifically aim for China in their films. We'll discuss that.
But
I would,
going back to Avatar,
yes.
let's talk about the actual story a little bit.
Yes, I did want to bring that up.
I take it you had a more lukewarm response to it, so let's explore that.
I wouldn't say lukewarm. It's not that I disliked it. It was just like, oh, that happened. Cool. Again, I took a pee break during the movie and was like, oh, how much longer I have? And I was up an hour in with about like an hour and a half left. I'm like, huh. I'm still not locked into this movie. And it's just like really cool looking. Um, Side note, I was listening to music earlier today, and the song that happened to stick in my head was Juice by Lizzo. So that was kind of in my head before the movie started. I take my bathroom break, come back, sit in the movie. The song pops back into my head out of nowhere. As if my brain was still lingering on that song and not the movie.
I guess that's fair.
Yeah. And again,
I mean,
there's so many factors that could have
I'll be
affected
honest,
me.
in terms of how I watch movies at home, it's completely different from how I see movies in the theater.
How do you? This is an interesting topic. How do you watch movies at home?
I'm never fully invested in that sense.
Interesting.
Like while I was watching this one, I did have my phone out during multiple scenes and just scrolling Twitter and doing stuff like that.
Interesting. I make an effort to recreate the movie theater experience. So typically, I'll have my phone on the charger and just put it in a different place so it's not near me. Now that we're doing this, I'll have it on the side to take notes, but I don't like I'll put it on airplane mode. I don't open up the internet or anything. I turn off the lights. I make sure I'm paying attention to every moment, trying to take in.
Hmm. I don't know. For me, it just feels like I every time I try to make something similar to the theater experience at home, outside factors just come in.
You also so you watch your movies in the living room
Yeah,
typically, right?
that's also the other thing.
Yeah. I I'll usually do solo movies, especially when it's like a movie no one else in my family will be interested in. I'll do it alone in my room. Or if it's something I'm watching with like my cousins, I'll be like, hey, can y'all shut up while we watch? And then maybe someone's in the kitchen like cooking or someone else's screen I hear. So it's like whatever. I deal with it, but that's interesting.
But like in terms of that, I don't think it's really the movie's fault that you
No.
can't get into it in terms of the because again, this is a movie that is heavily influenced by the spectacle in terms of bringing you into the world.
Mhm.
And it was it needs that technology there and that overall encompassing visual experience.
Well, can we twist the conversation in kind of the story realm with the characters?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we discussed this, at least I brought it up in Titanic, that sometimes Cameron's characters can feel a little too dimensional, very surface level. And I think when you have actors like Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio, they will bring life into it. But I'm watching this, and you got the main love interest in there. I'm a sucker for a love story. My favorite film of the year so far is The Half of It on Netflix because I was yelling at the
Wait, that
screen.
came out this year?
That was like April, May this year.
Oh my god.
I know. I only watched it for like last month, but yeah. And
Because I
I
did
was,
enjoy that movie.
but I was screaming and standing on my bed shouting at the characters and the relationships and the kind of mishaps happening between them. And I'm watching this, and I'm like, you two have no chemistry. I don't know if it's the writing. I don't know if it's the characters. I don't know if something was lost in translation as they placed this CGI filter on their performances. But I found it to be they met. Obviously, they're going to get together. Montage. I guess they spent time together, and now they're into each other.
Well, I mean, these sorts of romances never really get to me in that sort of sense. But in terms of plot, it it made sense enough for me in terms of the themes and like him getting to know this culture and becoming ingrained in it and like her being able to see it through new eyes and like sort of reacquaint herself with it in terms of that.
Do you think that's why she's into him? I understand why he would be into her. I don't know why she's into him. And I think we had this question last time with Cameron in Titanic too.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's the best explanation I could think of. But I I don't think that's the main. So I very much enjoyed this movie, even in terms of its story.
Mhm.
I didn't really. I mean, for me, a lot of the times romances, it's like it's there,
Sure,
and that's about it.
that's fair.
Uh, but I really liked how they handled the and visualizing the whole dynamic between the colonizers and the natives,
As in,
as in like how they filmed it, how they the color
oh yes,
palettes,
yes, yes.
and just how they went about responding to the world around them.
Sure, sure. Do you have any thoughts on the characters other than any of the other characters? Maybe any more thoughts about Jake and Neriti? Is that her
Um,
name? What's her name?
so in anime, there
Let's hold
is
on. I feel like we need a jingle whenever we either bring up video games or anime. Welcome to Pawan's Anime Corner. Go on.
So in anime, there is a common trope for a main character to be a blank vessel for the audience to just glom on whatever they want so that they could easily put themselves in their shoes. That is definitely Jake Sully in this film.
I don't know if that's an anime trope. In that, I think Harry
It
Potter.
exists in anime,
Yes.
but like it's also outside. But like that's one place where they're very active in acknowledging it and like.
I think Harry Potter is very much that. I think Frodo is very much that.
I mean, it is also just a normal heroes trope.
I think Luke Skywalker is that.
Listen,
Arguably Rey as
everything
well.
comes from anime.
So
Anime originated storytelling.
While we're descendants of primates, the Navi are descendants of anime.
Yes.
Jimmy C, if we're correct, please reach out to us. $1 billion movie club at gmail, at yahoo, at hotmail, at aol.com, .net, .org, .edu. Thank you.
.co.uk.
.com.
So yeah, in terms of his character, he's very, there isn't much there, but that's very much on purpose.
Yes.
It's a very, the characters are very utilitarian in the sense how they're dealt with. It's very utilitarian in the sense that it's not about who they are, it's about who they are in relation to the environment around them. That's what this movie is about.
Yes. And I think your explanation of Jake being the surrogate for the audience is very much seen when you do get the first person view of him waking up as a Navi, or the first person view of him rolling onto Pandora for the first time. Very much so. Very much so. I just want to point out this note that I have. So 2 notes. Pocahontas from the white people's POV. And then Pocahontas meets the performative allyship of the help. I don't. And I don't know if that's just me trying to find a problem with this movie, but I think it's funny that I wrote that.
That does seem to be a bit of a stretch because it's not like it's not like the white people were the ones who actually led the charge at the end of the movie.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. What were your thoughts on Giovanni Ribisi and Michelle Rodriguez or Sigourney Weaver?
Giovanni was fun as like this corporate tech guy who's just like, I don't give a shit about the environment.
Who plays golf in the middle of the day.
I need money. That's all that matters.
I also had fun with him. I found the weird 180 in his morality shift to be random and unearned.
Can you explain that further?
The fact that he finally felt bad for killing them, or destroying the tree.
I'm forgetting something.
So
that happened.
So when they destroy the tree, the home tree, he's looking on. And he's like, "Oh no, what did I do?" And he kind of has that during the final fight at the end as well when they cut to him.
I mean, in that sense, it might be more that he wasn't seeing it from the Navi's perspective, and like that forced him to actually see their agony.
I would have liked a little more humanization of the character. I think if you just have like, you don't even have to focus it, like pictures on his desk of his family, because Sigourney does have the line of, there are children and families in there. Are you going to kill the families? Then you're like, okay, now I see why he's reckoning with his actions and starting to second guess himself. But it just seemed like such a sudden shift that I don't think is inaccurate. I think that's reasonable for someone who's trying to gain money to finally come in terms with the actions. But
I mean, to be fair, also, the movie doesn't really focus that much on The humans.
No. No. You're right. I have a question about that.
What is it?
And actually, no, because they addressed in the movie. The first time he switches back between Navi and human and back and forth, I'm like, when does he sleep? And even then, I don't think there's really a good explanation of like when he sleeps.
I mean, the way I saw it is that like after he falls asleep as a Navi and comes back, he stays up for a bit, logs it, and then just sleeps as a human.
Okay.
That was my understanding anyway.
That makes sense. Just the first time they did, he woke up and then he like sat with them at lunch to talk about it. And I say lunch instead of dinner because there was sunlight in the scene. And I'm like, wait, how many days has it been since he was an hobby?
Uh yeah, I mean it would be better to make that tighter in terms of like making that explanation better, but also it would also run up the runtime of the movie itself.
Sure, sure. Um, Michelle Rodriguez, she had fun. She had fun in the movie.
Yeah, I mean,
It's another. She's barely in it.
yeah, that's the thing. Like the humans are barely there, so it's hard to really attach any characteristic or meaning to them.
She dies, right?
Yes.
You know what bothered me about her character?
What?
So when they attack the main tree, right?
Hmm.
She doesn't. She's like, I'm not doing this. I didn't sign up for it. And then flies off. And didn't get in trouble for that.
That's true.
And she's like, I'm gonna give them their lunch. And no one's like, wait, she spent a lot of time with them. Are they friendly? Are they acquaintances? Might she help them break out?
Okay. So that feels like a sort of thing that would show up on CinemaSins.
It just felt odd. Cause the dude the boss dude, Stephen Lane's character, right? He totally would have been on her ass. He would have been pissed that she didn't help out and thrown her in the cell with them. Right?
Hmm.
Character. I'm just thinking character wise. I'm trying to find some sort of character other than these cartoonish or two-dimensional things.
But I feel like that's missing the point also.
I guess. I'm sure
Like
it's just trying to get the plot along, trying to move the story along.
I also feel like there is purpose in terms of making the humans these cartoonish beings and humanizing the Navi more.
Oh, I like that. I do like that. See, this is why this is fun because I come with these outlandish ideas and you push back.
Which is, I mean, you're saying that as if that happens every time. This is the only time it's been that way and not the other way around.
I feel like you've done that in the past episodes.
In terms of like pushing back on your ideas.
Yeah, I feel like it did. Um, I felt weird about Sigourney Weaver in this movie.
Can you expand on that idea?
Something felt off about her performance. It didn't feel like she was phoning it in, but there's all these weird inflections and pauses when she'd say stuff. It felt like she wasn't human at times. I don't know if that's the script. I don't know if it's her performance. I don't know if it's Cameron's direction.
Maybe that's commentary on the idea that she spent so much time in the avatar state that
Oh.
she is no longer fully human.
I will say the moment her death scene,
Mm-hmm.
when they try to connect her with the Navi body, and she goes, Mother Tree, she's real. Holy crap, I got goosebumps. Holy, I'm getting goosebumps now talking about it. Something about her face in the moment, the delivery of this almost a gasp of air as she's using her last breath to realize they get this realization, this moment of nirvana before she goes. I was like, oh God, this got me. This is what I watch cinema for.
Cinema.
Cinema. Cinema.
Yeah. So
There are weird stuff I found
Hmm.
cinematically too. Like, um, after the sex scene, it awkwardly cuts to him in the tube as a human, and there's a voiceover, and there's a fade to black that felt weird and out of place. Um, During the slow mo, when it looks like they're gonna fail at the end during the big fight, something about the score. There were like a bang of the drum that up against the shots of the guns and the clashes. It felt off and it took me out.
Hmm.
I didn't feel the weight of them almost losing, which I
Speaking
usually
of
get.
that moment, so what I was thinking of during the big fight at the end, it's like, you know what? Those animals at the beginning were really interesting. I wish they would return. And you know what happened like 5 seconds later?
They returned.
They did. And I was like, hell yes. This movie knows what I want and it delivers.
They did. It knew what you want. Well, you don't realize James Cameron, he made Terminator because he knows about time travel. So he went to the future, was doing some research. See, okay, so I made this movie. How did I make it? Came across this episode. Hey James. Hey James, how you doing? James. And so he saw your note and took it. In the same way that in the first Terminator, this guy goes back because Sarah Connor's son is this martyr in the revolution, wants to protect Sarah Carter, Connor,
Carter.
Sarah Connor.
Is
He,
Sarah related to Jay-Z?
her son told him, her son
Oh, wait, no.
told,
That was Lil Wayne that had the Carter series. My bad.
isn't Jay-Z Carter? I don't, I thought, okay. So in Terminator, right? I just want to explain to you how crazy and weird this is, Terminator.
Okay.
So let's say his name is Smith. I forget what his name is. He goes back in time.
Mhm.
It's like your son. I think the son's name is John Connor. Is a martyr in this revolution, and we need to make sure the robots don't come back to kill you, so that he disappears. So I'm going to protect you. I'm going to protect you,
Right,
Sarah
right.
Connor. Right? They fuck. He dies. Turns out he's the son's dad.
Oh, yeah. It's one of those things where it's like it's a closed loop, so you never know where it actually starts.
Yeah, it just was really weird. Yep. Yep.
I mean, there's another movie I saw which was all about that. That was called Predestination. And boy, did I hate that movie.
Do I know this one?
Uh, it stars Ethan Hawke.
Is it the director of the director we don't want to talk about anymore? Of that other time travel movie? What's that? You've mentioned this person before. There's like a time travel movie that people love because of its explanation of time travel. And then he did another movie, which I assume you're talking about. And then he tweeted like some dumb shit, and now we don't like him anymore.
No, I don't recall.
Okay.
But like the reason why I hated that movie is because this person. So here's the basic summary of that movie.
Hmm.
This person goes back in time, has sex with themselves to give birth to themselves. To give birth to themselves. And then later on, at some point in the future, becomes a terrorist. So there's like a third form of them that's currently existing in that plane as well. That's only mentioned.
Cinema, ladies and gentlemen.
So
Cinema.
in terms of the characters that exist in that movie, there's only one. So back to Avatar.
I don't know if that's a genius idea or a terrible idea.
Oh god, I hated it so much. But we're not here to talk about that.
I have a question about Sigourney Weaver's character.
Mhm.
So the plan was to keep her alive by putting her in a Navi body.
Right.
What if she didn't want that? Like, what if she had a family at home on Earth that she wanted to go back to?
I mean, at that point, that's just her decision.
Yeah. Just a thought I had. The dialogue for Cameron's films feels odd at times.
Again, it's very archetypal.
But like there was this weird line Michelle Rodriguez goes, I was hoping for some kind of tactical plan that didn't involve martyrdom.
That
It,
is a jumbled
it
mess of a sentence.
feels like him trying to be smart and symbolic at the same time. And there was a lot of like shits and bitches.
Yeah, there was a
throughout.
lot of cursing that I wasn't expecting.
And the fact that it threw me off was weird.
But then again, that's also like the jarhead speak. It's like soldier speak. They curse a lot. I mean, it exists in the real world, but it doesn't necessarily exist in cinema, which is why it feels off-putting.
It's a question of is is storytelling supposed to be realistic or heightened realism? Like how detailed do you go with that realism? And
Yeah.
it felt like Sigourney Weaver threw in a bullshit in like the first scene that was unnecessary. What is the there's another Michelle Rodriguez line that threw me off.
Mhm.
That was like, oh, I was gonna shoot you too, bitch. And I was like, you could have just said I was gonna shoot you too. Has the same meaning.
Yeah, but Miss Simpson, the adding of the word bitch gives you so much to work with.
But then she didn't use it then. Like it was an extra gasp of air that took away anything that line could have had. There's I don't know how you feel about the first time they pull Jake they force him out of the body. It cuts to him. He has this voiceover of a Oh, I just saw it. Where is it?
Lots of notes.
Out there's the real world. Here's the dream, and it's him in the wheelchair, and there's a focus on his legs being really skinny.
Like, yeah,
Jim,
I actually remember that.
Can you be a little more
subliminal,
artistic?
Yeah,
not
in
so on the
retrospect,
nose.
that one doesn't that's not good.
It goes very melodramatic a lot, especially with the voiceover and the human scenes.
So the voiceover, for me, it felt very reminiscent of the voiceover in Blade Runner in terms of why it was there.
Oh, I see. Okay, that makes sense.
Like, you don't necessarily need all of it, but you do need some of it to explain it.
Hold up. I've only seen the final cut of Blade Runner.
Yeah.
So you're referring to the final cut?
No.
Or the original that people hated?
I'm talking about the original.
Okay.
Like, the original intent of the voiceover from that was to explain what's happening in the film.
It was thought that it was too smart for people and they needed help understanding it, right?
Which it wasn't necessary for that one, but there were certain points of this one where it was. Because, again, like you said, they didn't really explain when he sleeps and all that. And I felt like a lot of that was covered in the voiceover.
Yes. My one thing to add with the voiceover is that I felt like it was used a lot in the beginning, understandably so. I forgot about it, and it jumped back in like 80% of the movie. I'm like, wait, voiceover again? Because I completely forgot that the voiceover is basically his thoughts, like him recording his thoughts. So like that makes sense.
I mean, there's like the narrative purpose in terms of it being explained in the plot. But like the one thing about using voiceover as a crutch is just the problem that you had, where it's not as memorable as visualized things.
Yes. And so it's easy to miss, and then you're like, wait, what?
So it's like easy to just write it in and like be, oh yeah, that's solved. But in terms of how it comes across as the audience, it's a lot harder to remember that.
I think there's only one minor thing I'd like to bring up. Is there anything else you want to bring up?
I think I'm good.
Okay, because this is minor and kind of stupid. The humans,
Mhm.
I feel like their technology, it looks like they advanced very far, and yet it did not. When
Yeah, it was just
when the helicopters are flying away, he shoots them with like an assault rifle and then a handgun.
because guns don't evolve.
And then when they're dropping the bombs, like the fire bombs to kill everything, they have to physically push these things out of the helicopter. There's not like a button to drop all of them.
I mean, there could. This goes into like explanations upon explanations because you can say like, oh, they wouldn't send their best technology all the way to Navi or
But they
like Pandora.
would. They would, right? We don't know why they're there other than to mine for that um what
Exactly.
was it
If
called?
they're there just as unobtainium is what it's called.
Now,
But
is
like,
that actually what it's called? Because I thought for a
yes,
second
that
you
is
mentioned
literally what it's
okay.
called.
I thought that was the Black Panther thing, and you were just saying it
No,
for this
but
too.
it's also the Black Panther thing, I think.
Is that vibranium?
Oh, yeah.
But go on. You were saying.
Um, but in terms of like, if you're going there to mine, you wouldn't bring out the A1 military stuff.
That makes sense. You're right. I think because these are the characters you focus on, my mind said, okay, this is like humanity's last hope, and they're sending them to explore this land. But no, that makes perfect sense.
Because that is what we're following in terms of that. Giovanni Ribisi is like the main head honcho of the humans in this movie, and he's basically just he owns a mining company.
You're right. You're right. Interesting. And again, as we reach the end of this film, when he opens his eyes, and then it's like the close up, and then it's the title screen of Avatar, I'm like, damn, give me some more of this. Give me some more of this. Pawan, final thoughts on this film?
I very much enjoyed it. I enjoyed the environmental themes and how it was made the focus in terms of being a. If anything, the environment of Pandora is the main character of the movie.
Yes, the environment is a character. Yeah, I know I came on harder than you did on this film, but it's a fun time. You have a lot of fun, and I wish I saw it back in 2009 because 12-year-old Christian would have loved this film. And I'm excited to see what Cameron does underwater next.
I'll be honest, I actually remember not liking this film as much coming out of the theater.
Interesting. Interesting. Did you ever watch it in between these two viewings? The
Nope.
initial and interesting. Huh. Well, look what 12 years, no, 11 years could do to a film in a person. You never know. Now, Juan,
Mm-hmm.
we've done, what is it, 5 episodes, right? 5 episodes of this?
This is the 5th episode yet. Wait, no, this is
I think it is the 5th episode.
this is the 5th episode.
5 episodes in, very popular, very beloved films. You know, this one nominated for 9 Oscars, won 3, won the Golden Globe for Best Motion Picture Drama. $2.7 billion worldwide. And
With
yet,
a B.
it's not perfect. We're still looking for a perfect movie, but we've yet to find one.
That's correct. Yeah.
So maybe we could make it better.
Mhm.
Perhaps.
Maybe.
Juan, would you like to take a crack at this
I'd
first, or would
like to
me
hear you go first.
Oh, God. Okay. Well, I had many ideas. Let me throw on some ideas I had. There's the montage, the training montage,
Mhm.
which I feel like was rushed a little, as montages do, but this felt too rushed. So I think there's a world where you expand on that and make it a slapstick comedy in the middle as he adjusts to his new body in these new ways. I think there's a world where, you know, James Cameron did Aliens, the sequel to Alien, Alien made by Ridley Scott, who then did Prometheus. I think there's a world where you do a Prometheus style prequel and explore the world and the origins a little bit more. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But this is my way of fixing this film. Make it really incredible. So about 2 hours, 20 minutes, maybe 2 hours and 10 minutes in, we're in the final fight. Final fight begins. It's not looking great for the Na'vi. All right. Stephen Lang and his army is really kicking their ass. And so I think like Michelle Rodriguez and a bunch of other characters have died by this point, which is very sad. So we cut to Zoe Saldana by herself. Sam Worthington,
Jake Sully.
First off, I forgot to mention this. I kind of don't like that it's just a random white guy. And so I fixed it, making it a better random white guy by adding age to it. So in my version, Jake Sully is played by Sully Sullenberger.
Who?
The guy who landed the plane on the Hudson.
Man, you really love combining universes.
Because there's a line where he's like, don't tell me what I can and can't do. And I'm like, okay, well, you can't do a lot because you're old now. So Sully Sullenberger is talking to, it's not even an earpiece, it's like a neck piece that they press to talk to each other. And he's like, hey, don't attack, run away, don't attack, don't spook them. And then humans come by, they're like their mechs and their guns and stuff. They're like, oh, something's coming. Where is it? They turn around. And you realize the trees did do something. All right. And Pawan, I mentioned this earlier. Avatar was the first film to be #1 at the box office for 5 consecutive weeks since a film from 1999. Do you remember what that film was?
The Sixth Sense.
Yes. And to loosely connect the two, the trees have come, and instead of summoning the animals, the trees release a toxin. Which
I'll
forces the humans to attack each other, thus making the humans fight each other, and the Na'vi are safe.
Wait, so this sounds like you're connecting it to Batman Begins as well.
Wait, is that not what happens in The Happening? What do the trees do in The Happening?
I mean, I didn't see The Happening, so I don't know.
Isn't it something like that? I haven't seen it. I thought it's like the trees release a
I think
toxin
it's something like that as well. Yeah,
that make the humans fight each other.
Yeah.
And so instead of the trees releasing the animals, they're releasing the toxins to make the humans fight. You seem to be not a fan of this. I have one other alternate idea.
How can you tell I'm not a fan?
Because I thought you'd be more excited by the Happening reference, but I thought you'd. All right, here's my other idea.
Okay.
Take two. So we get to the point where Stephen Lang and his men are like at the home tree, ready to attack it. And like, hey, get away! I'm throwing
tear gas.
And he's like, this is how I get rid of rats, right? And then they start running away. The Na'vi are running. Oh no! Right? And then he's like, all right, light him up. And then they shoot the missiles that like explode, right?
Incendiary bullets.
The incendiary bullets. But what? They shoot it. Bing! It bounces back? What? He's like, oh, that's weird. Let's use the bazooka. And so they shoot the bazooka. But the bazooka shoots back and then hits a helicopter. What? The Na'vi and Pandora are so evolved that they evolved past metal and bullets that they're resistant to it. If a truck tries to run them over, it just gets stuck because they're so evolved past metal. They don't need it. And so everything just reflects back at the army, the military, whoever they are, thus making the Na'vi safe because they are impervious to the attacks.
The Navi are so based that to us they have a retrograde version of technology and how they go about it.
Mhm.
But in essence, it's stronger than anything we could have come up with.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. This one you liked. There you go. I was inspired because I was looking at them. I was like, they're shooting metal bullets, but I don't think they have metal on Pandora.
Well, they have unobtainium in the ground.
What is that metal?
It is. He actually had a sample of what it was.
That was a rock. Is a rock metal? If you cut me, do I not bleed?
All right, let's just move on.
All right, Pawan. So, Jimmy C may take my idea. He may take your idea. What is your idea?
So the first thing that I'd like to do is they keep talking about how everything's connected in terms of the planet. I'd like to visualize that.
Go on.
Like, you know how in a lot of movies or they like have when someone's like hacking into the mainframe or like doing things on computer, it like shows the line through like the computer code and all that.
Yes.
Do that for the trees. So that's numero uno.
May I ask questions on this, or would you like me to save my questions for the end?
Go ahead.
Right.
Ask questions.
So the hacking, the trees are doing the hacking, right? Are we
Well, in terms of like showcasing that connection.
are we cutting to it throughout the film? Is
Only,
this a reveal at the end when Sigourney Weaver, they finally bring her to the tree?
I think like good moments for it are like when they connect to the other beings, just showcasing that line. So like when they do the hair thing, just following the hair like lines that go in.
Does it do the animated thing when they do it and then it all turns into black silhouettes and then you see the lines going through them?
Yes, that's exactly what I want.
All right. Go on.
Okay. I also had an idea for they bring up this brother at the beginning,
Yes.
but he's never gotten into. And there is a habit at this point of just taking characters that don't need backstories or explanations and giving them entire miniseries. For example, look at One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Ratchet. So what I suggest is we give the dead brother a miniseries of what he was before, and we get a backstory of how this avatar actually came to be. Did he have sex with a Navi? Did they do artificial insemination? That's one way to find out.
I love that this segment was supposed to be us fixing the movie and changing it, and slowly we just started throwing franchising possibilities out. Completely keeping the movie intact. Go on.
I mean,
no, you're right. That's a great idea. No, that's an incredible idea.
How else do I improve this movie? Let's see if I could come up with something real quick.
Whoa, a threefer.
Let's see.
Can Pawan go for the turkey? Pawan is lining up the shot. Towing the line. There's Wii bowling, so they press the up button to zoom in.
So
zoomed out. Holding B and pulling back.
With the sex scene, I want the whole connecting lines with the whole tree aspect, but bring that turn it up to 11. I want to see a literal explosion happening once it connects, as in the orgasm. That is what that is.
Pawan, incredible idea. First off, incredible idea. We discussed that in the special edition, James Cameron extended the sex scene. Now, are we sure that's not what he did? Did he see this podcast, go, whoa, that's an incredible idea, went back to March 2010 and say, hey, let's add this in the special edition?
In that case, why is that not on Disney Plus?
Is the special edition on Disney Plus?
No, I'm asking why didn't they include that?
But because
Because
HBO,
it
no,
makes
no.
the film better.
But is there? Is it? Did we check? I didn't check the bonus features. Did you?
I did not.
Because HBO Max in Little Shop of Horrors in the bonus features has the extended the alternate ending, and so it's literally the entire film with the alternative ending as a separate thing. So maybe it is. We neither of us checked. I would check it right now, but my PlayStation remote just died before we started recording. So there's that. Terrific, terrific answers for both of us. I think really there's no better answer, but I think the audience could leave a comment in the comments. Can you comment on Spotify or podcast
No.
service? That's what I thought.
But you could do it on YouTube.
You can mention it in your review on the podcasts.
You could also mention it in your email to us.
Oh yes, at $1 billion movie club at gmail at hotmail at ukyahoo.com.edu.net.ukjif.
To be honest, we probably should start an email for this.
We'll talk about that off air. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
So that was a great round of improvements.
Yes.
It's crazy that Hollywood has not hired us yet. But maybe it's because of this next segment where we put Hollywood in its place.
Well, we don't.
Oh,
we
you're
leave
right.
it to
I'm
the
so
objective
sorry.
facts.
Yes, I'm sorry. It's an objective fact. We're just revealing the truth, the inner truth of Hollywood.
We're just bringing the mirror up and letting them see what's there.
It is time to look at the ranking of every film to ever cross $1 billion worldwide.
So far, we have 4 movies listed, and now we got to place Avatar somewhere in there.
Yes. To recap, currently at number 37, Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest. Then, after a highly contested placing, at number 32, The Dark Knight. At number 19, old Jimmy C's Titanic.
Mm-hmm.
And at number 3, Lord of the Rings: Return of the King.
All right. So, Miss Simpson,
It is my turn.
how are we feeling about this?
I don't know. How about you ask me to compare it with the most recent movie we've discussed?
Let's see. How do you feel in comparison to TDK or The Dark Knight?
The Dark Knight. Do I like it better or worse than the Dark Knight?
That is the question.
I'm gonna say worse. I like it this less than the Dark Knight.
Interesting. So, do you feel better or worse than Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest?
I feel like that film is fine, and so I personally, you're asking about my state, right? Is my current state better or worse than Dead Man's Chest?
Yes.
Because I'm on a high from this podcast, so I think I'm better. I personally am better than Dead Man's Chest.
And just to clarify,
Okay, I like clarifications.
do you think this film is better or worse than Titanic?
I apologize for misunderstanding. Hot take. I liked Avatar less than Dead Man's Chest.
Ooh.
It hurts me that's gonna be this low, but this is just the science. It really hurts me that it's this low, but I like this less than Dead Man's Chest.
But what about all the other movies? Just to
That's-
clarify, do you like it better or worse than Titanic?
In my opinion, this is my least favorite of the films so far. But I also think Dead Man's Chest gets bonus points because I watched Curse of the Black Pearl the day before, and I liked that one so much that I don't know how much that colored Dead Man's Chest. But if I'm being honest, this is my least favorite of them. I don't think it's the worst of them, but
Interesting.
personally, this is my least favorite. And so that means the max will be 38 and the min will be 47. I feel terrible. I feel
mean,
terrible. This is how the numbers work.
Today is your day to witness the arcane objective facts, but like if I were to witness them, it definitely would be a lot higher.
Yeah. No, it pains me that this is my honest truth at this moment, but that's just how facts work, okay? You don't just get to pick which facts you like and don't like, okay?
Because if I
Okay.
were to divine the objective facts myself, I might put it above Titanic.
Yeah,
But
that's
it's not my turn.
as you discussed
Yours.
it, that's what it sounded like, but I apologize. This is just you see how I'm procrastinating because I don't want to do this to this movie. It's a very well done movie, and I have a lot of respect
No,
for it.
no. I get it, Miss Simpson. You hate this movie.
You know,
You have no respect for Jimmy Cameron's work in terms of this landmark film.
no, I have no respect for the guy who made my currently least favorite and favorite films on this list. No respect at all. So it pains me, but the min will be 38 and the max will be 47. Pawan, I apologize. What are we using for this?
We're putting it into the objective ranking number system,
Oh yes,
where-
yes. The objective ranking,
also
number
known
system.
as Google's random number generator, the first result that pops up when you type it in.
Thank God we created Google. Wait, it's 47, right?
Yep.
I don't want to press this.
You have to. You
want
did
to.
this. No, Miss
Oh.
Simpson, you have to understand. You did this.
I did do this. I'm sorry, Jimmy C. I'm sorry, Jimmy C. If you need an actor for Avatar 6, please call me.
I mean, it's not going to happen after you divine the objective facts of this.
I'm legitimately scared about where these are going to go. Juan, tell me when to press the button.
I think now's as good a time as any. Go ahead.
44. I was hoping to be like 39. All right.
It would have been really funny if it was 47.
That I would have hated that. I was so scared of that happening.
Honestly, I wanted it to happen just to see how you'd react.
Because I would hate myself. Because not only did I create this podcast, it's my personal opinion that is playing into the placement. So it's all my
Because
fault.
that would mean Transformers: Age of Extinction is objectively better than Avatar.
Wait!
Alice in Wonderland is objectively better than Avatar.
Let's not throw in names yet. Let's not start throwing names yet. But only 3 films could be worse than Avatar. Only 3 films.
Okay, we now have our like top and our bottom
We do.
like cuts.
And this is where the madness begins. So to review, today we placed the second highest grossing film of all time, Academy Award Best Picture nominee, Golden Globe Best Motion Picture Drama winner, Avatar. We came to the conclusion that it's the 44th greatest film to ever cross the $1 billion mark.
I think we should also establish what one of the rules in this objective ranking. If a film, say we consider a film to be worse than Avatar, but all the slots under Avatar are taken.
Yeah.
It's objectively better.
Too late. That's just how life worked. Pawan, I have a question for you. Do we want to have a side list ranking the $2 billion films as well, or do we want to just keep just the $1 billion?
Oh, how many films are on that list so far?
I believe it's 5. I'm just double checking at this moment.
No, I'm talking about of the ones we've seen.
2. Both of Jimmy's.
Are they? I see. Yeah.
Both of Jimmy's films. We don't have to. I just had that idea at this moment. Do we want to have 2 lists? To have a more precise view. Yeah, it's only 5 films that we would talk about. So, all right.
Yeah, this is fine.
To review at number 44.
At number 44.
And I will always be the one to say this placement because I have to feel bad every time I say it.
44 of 47.
At number 44, Avatar. At number 37, Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest. At number 32, The Dark Knight.
You know, the thing I find funny about your explanation of why you enjoyed Pirates more than Avatar is that earlier we were talking about how like this is one of the few original films, and now you're like, yeah, the high of the first movie is what makes the second movie better.
I like those characters more. I'm more invested in those characters. I'm sorry. You know what characters I were invested in after one movie? Number 19's Titanic. I love Jack and Rose. And all the way at the top at number 3, Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King. What a list!
Yeah.
Oh, this is gonna hurt as we move along.
Yo, I'm gonna stop listing movies because oh my god.
Because we don't want to give away what's gonna happen. So with that, any closing statements?
I may be personally hurt, but I can't take my subjective feelings into account with the
No.
subjective listing because
That's a
it
fact.
doesn't affect it. Because, when you're appraising art, if you're not objective, what's the point?
You're right.
What I'm
Right.
talking about, it doesn't matter
No,
at this point.
it's really just what the really. I wish I remember what the deity's name is, because I could have used
Awa.
it. Really, it's Awa's choice. Awa chose.
I'm pretty sure that's the.
I trusted you earlier when I said it, so I don't know if you're right or not. And it is. I'm vamping as they look for the answer, looking for the answer. Look around.
I'm not getting it. You know what?
Okay, that's fine.
We're just
That's fine.
leave it in the comments. Tell us how wrong we are.
Like, comment, subscribe, rate us on your services.
Goodreads.
Ooh, ooh. When this is done, can we release an anthology book, like listing all of it with a little description, little blurbs?
I mean, if we could get a publisher, hit us up.
Yeah. Hit us up at $1,000,000movieclub at .com, gmail.yahoo.net.eduj.
Q.
And with that, as always, shout out to Max Lismacchio for the art.
For the beautiful cover art.
Yes, wonderful cover art at Max Lismacchio art. Max Lismacchio _art on it's in the description of this podcast.
It's in the Instagrams.
The Greens. And with that, I think that is it for Pawan thinks blue lives matter.
Pawan Mehta.
Wait, let me just repeat that. Pawan thinks blue lives matter.
Listen, in terms of services, if we could replace all the police officers with postmen, I think that would be a great boon to our society.
I don't disagree. I think that's a great idea.
And I got that idea from Death Stranding.
We need to have a jar that we fill every time we make a reference to a video game. So that was Pawan Mehta. I am Christian Missenson. And thank you for joining us on our discussion of Avatar, James Cameron's Avatar. Next week, we'll be discussing 2010's Alice in Wonderland, the live-action remake, another film on the Disney Plus streaming service. I hope I'm correct. I believe I'm correct in saying that. That's the film we're talking about next week.
Yes.
And so, please watch that movie. Would you like to join our discussion? Or listen to our ramblings.
Or just join it without any context.
Yeah, listen to our ramblings and see if any of it makes sense. Thank you once more for joining us in this week's episode of the $1 Billion Movie Club. I have a gun too, bitch!
There's bumps in the walls.
I've had to pee for the last 20 minutes. What? I'm sorry I made it 44.